Well, I think the one thing, for Russell and even just communicating with him, even going back to last year, is I think Russell's all about the team. And I think his role in terms of not just about him, but everybody, our team collectively, working and trying to build an identity, working and building, on our system. And I think he obviously takes great pride in being a leader to help facilitate that. But I don't think it's necessarily been about, Russell and his role. I mean, Russell's going to do what Russell does, and he does it at a very high level. But it's really more about our team and how we're going to progress moving forward together as a group.
What do you need from the team around Russell to make this an easy transition for him, or an easier transition?
Yeah, I just really believe it's always been about our team and about us collectively as a group and how we progress and how we continue to build and move forward. Russell's obviously a guy that's been in this league for a long time, and he's played at a very, very high level for a long time. And I think from a leadership standpoint, what you want to be able to do is make the people around you better and compliment them. And I think the players around them have got to be able to compliment him. So I think developing and building, an identity, a system, a style of play that we can kind of continue to work towards during the course of the year. We obviously have, some new players. And with those new players, that kind of that chemistry playing together, some of those things will take time. But we got a great group of guys. I really have enjoyed being around the guys that were not here last year and, getting a chance to spend some time with them during the off season. And I think we have really, really good, high-quality character people. And I think going forward, will give us an opportunity to build their connection as it relates to playing with each other.
There's a lot of curiosity about the pace of play with Kevin gone. When Kevin was here, there was a lot of opportunity for him to do some one-on-one or to at times slow it down, although you did run a lot. How would you address the pace issue and the possible change?
Well, I think we always want to play with pace. I think the one thing from a coaching perspective is you always have things I think you value that are important regardless of personnel. We would like to, push the pace and the tempo. I think last year in transition we were one of the better teams in terms of efficiency. Hopefully that can continue and that can become part of our identity in terms of how we play. But I think because of the speed and the quickness and the athleticism of the group, I really believe we can be a very good running team.
Coach, against Victor last year, what do you see him bringing to this club?
Well, this is probably one of these recruiting situations when he was in high school. Playing a power forward spot, I recruited Victor a little bit, and he'll tell you I made a mistake because I didn't offer him a scholarship. It probably was a huge mistake. But I think the thing with Victor is he's a great guy. He's obviously, played a lot since his rookie year in Orlando. I think Victor is looking to try to come in and contribute and help any way he can. Certainly the thing that jumps out at you right away is just his motor, his energy, and the way he competes. And I think defensively he's a guy in the backcourt that gives us a really, really another solid perimeter and defender. And I think his game offensively, just being in the league and playing as much as he's had the opportunity to play early on in his career, he's continued to develop and evolve as an offensive player.
Billy, obviously.
Two starters from last year's team. What are you looking for in your starting lineup as you go through training camp?
Well, one of the things I want to do is not necessarily pass any judgment on anybody, because some of these guys I have not coached before and I've seen them on tape, but how they fit in and how they all complement each other. So the one thing I do like is I think we have flexibility. I think we have length and size and physicality in our front court. I do think that we can, with the way Andre has evolved as a player, is maybe do some different things with him in terms of size lineups, his flexibility. But in terms of the lineups right now, I really haven't really spent much time, because I don't want to do that going in where you have, Sabonis, is new, and Joffrey is new, Ersan is new, Victor's new. You have a lot of new guys, and I think just to come in without giving those guys a chance to play and compete in training camp, and that's what training camp's for, to see how it all works together, how guys complement each other, and then you got to look at, second unit, how you're going to sub and those kind of things. So that would be probably something in training camp and through the preseason we had a chance to evaluate.
Do you anticipate experimenting, especially in the first early months of the season, experimenting with those
I think you have to do some of that. I know last year I tried to do some of just looking at different things. I think you want to do that, but with that group, you want to certainly, when you do that, play to an identity. But I think you'd want to at least feel like as a coach you're exhausting the whole roster and looking at a lot of different things and keeping guys engaged. And I really believe in the process of going through a season. Everybody plays a really important role in different points in time in the year, and I think being able to keep guys engaged. And I think I made a comment last year, about a Nick Collison or an Anthony Morrow. Like, I always respected and admired their ability to stay ready, maybe when they weren't playing for a period of time, and then they got injected back in there. So I think keeping the roster in terms of the flexibility of, looking at different things. And I'm sure it's all going to change, from here to there. There's things that we changed, last year, in terms of rotations and substitutions. I mean, our starting lineup played pretty consistent, but just, trying to look at different lineups and different things. And, we'll have to do some of that through the preseason and do that maybe some inside the year just to see if we can get a full complement of guys playing together and how that looks.
Billy, you guys have a lot of players who kind of are either primarily offensive players or primarily defensive players. How do you as a coach manage your rotations to kind of ease that so that lineups are even and not too lopsided on one side of the floor?
Well, that's something, no question, you got to take, a look at in terms of how do you have balance, because to your point, you could come off, in the second unit and you could be in a situation where, you may be an offensively heavy team or you could be too defensively heavy. So those are the things I think we'll have to figure out in terms of the balance and the rotations and some of those things. I do think our roster's got a lot of flexibility. I like our guys a lot. I like their disposition, their attitude. I like the way they've worked this summer. I like their openness, in terms of coming into some of these guys a new situation and being excited about being here and the opportunity to be here. And then hopefully, collectively as a coaching staff, we can continue to help those guys grow and develop and evolve. And, we can put those guys in positions, because that's the most important thing, is putting those guys, all of our players, in positions where they can take their skill set and they can utilize their skill set and be effective and be productive.
Shooting's going to be a question with this team with the loss of Kevin and Serge and even Deion Waiters. Do you see upside in guys like Victor and even Kyle? Kyle had a down year last year coming into this season in terms of their shooting from the perimeter.
Well, we got to keep continuing to work, at that. But one of the things I think you want to do from an identity standpoint is certainly we'd like to play with pace and get up and down the floor. I think the idea of attacking the paint and being aggressive, trying to attack the paint. But I feel confident that if we can generate good shots from the perimeter, if we can continue to have our work with our guys and the amount of time and effort our guys have put in to trying to get better. I look at a guy like Andre, how much he's improved just over his career shooting the basketball. But that will be something that, we'll need to continue to work to build confidence in all those areas, offensively. And I think hopefully through a system we can do that to develop the kind of confidence where those guys feel really good about shooting the basketball.
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned Andre evolving. In what ways has he evolved most, and in what ways does that help your team?
I think, when last year started, I think everybody pretty much looked at Andre as being this defensive stopper, and he's certainly great at it. And he's worked really, really hard in the offseason because he has gotten corner threes and he has shot the ball better from behind the line, from behind three. I thought as the playoffs unfolded last year, he did a little bit more, as it related to scoring and finding opportunities to be effective without necessarily having to totally rely on his game of being a spot-up three-point shooter. So he's handled the ball better. That's gotten better for him. I think he feels more comfortable and confident offensively. He's put forth effort, like I said, in that area. So I think it's just him continuing to grow, offensively and trying to put him in situations where, he can slash to the basket, he can cut, he can get out in transition, he can take his, open corner threes, he can put the ball on the floor, some and attack the rim. But I really have seen a lot of growth in him.
Different styled defensive personnel this year than in the past with Serge and Kevin gone. What should we expect to see out of the defense this year, just from a style and philosophy standpoint?
Well, I've always believed that it's got to be played collectively as a group. We got to play collectively. For us, being a good defensive team is something that we're going to have to put a great effort into, starting tomorrow to build an identity and a defensive identity. And it's not so much necessarily one person. I think it's a collection and a group of all of us being committed to doing those things. And there's so many things with defense that it evolves from getting back in transition. It evolves to getting the ball stopped. It evolves, keeping the ball out of the paint, finishing off possessions with rebounding. But the only way you're able to do all those things, you got to do them collectively. And we've got to, as you want to play, unselfishly and collectively on offense, I think you have to do the same thing defensively. You've got to play collectively and together on the defensive end.
Coach, given the changes in the offseason, what do you see changing in the offense to make up for some of the scoring that you've lost and try to compensate for all that?
Like I said earlier, I think we've got to try to look at our personnel and try to utilize the personnel and put the personnel in positions where those guys can play to their strengths and to their skill sets. We have some unique players. If you look at our front court, Steven and Ennis are big and strong around the basket, rebound and offensive rebound, and have gotten better. Both guys, scoring from the low post. Ursan is a terrific three-point shooter. He gives you that floor space and a guy that can shoot the ball. Joffrey is another guy that can step and face up and put the ball and shoot the ball a little bit. So we have a lot of different things. So when you look at all those parts and different skill sets, you want to create a system and an identity that's going to be able to take advantage of those guys' individual skill sets so they can be successful. So, that encompasses a lot of looking at film, watching those guys play, evaluating those guys as player, putting them in situations that you feel like they can be productive in. And then through the offense, can we collectively as a group make each other better? Can we find the open man? Can we generate good shots? Can we generate shots that guys feel very, very comfortable taking and making? And I always think anytime your personnel changes at all, and even from year to year, you're going to have a defensive system and philosophy and identity, but I always think that offensively you have to evolve based on your personnel. And when your personnel changes, you just can't be like, okay, this is our system, this is the way we're going to play, and this is all we're going to do, and it doesn't make a difference who's in or out of it. You want to really think about how can I best maximize this player that he gets a chance to utilize what he does very, very well.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.